All right, well, I'm headed over to my buddy Eric's house. Eric was just on last week's episode of Forged in Fire. He ended up being the runner-up challenge where you get to go home and they let you work at your own home forge, and he was tasked with building this really bizarre weapon called a hungamunga. And so we're headed over to talk with him, to learn about his background, probably look at his collection of movie props and knives. And I got a new forge between his inspiration being on Forged in Fire and my experience at Maker Faire Atlanta last weekend I should say. I decided that I wanted to give blacksmithing a chance. So I brought my forge with me that I just got shipped to me yesterday, and who better to have show you how to use your new forge than a runner-up in the television show Forged in Fire. So I've known Eric for probably 5 years, 6 years. His daughter Daisy and my daughter Emily are the same age. They're both sophomores in high school. And I've known Eric since they were in 6th grade together. Nah, maybe 5th grade, I think 5th grade. And Eric is a very eclectic person. He's a DJ, he's a prop maker, he owns a prop rental company. Here in Atlanta, the movie business has exploded. So in the movie industry, if you're in it in any way, this is a great place to be. So he'll share a lot of that with you. But he just literally lives around the corner from me. I'll be there in about a minute and a half, I'm guessing, maybe less. But I'm pretty excited. Eric's starting his YouTube channel. He's had one for a while, but he's never really done anything with it. But after talking with him, we discussed it, and really there's no better time for him to do something than to get started now. I mean, really that's the only time you have is right now. So let's go see what Eric's up to, and hopefully we'll get to see his collection and his workshop. Almost there. Yeah, so stick with me and enjoy this interview with a recent contestant on Forged in Fire.
This will be delayed. Try not to drop it. I don't like dropping things.
All right, Eric. So I've known you for probably about 6 years now. Our kids are friends. And the whole time I've known you, you've done all kinds of creative things. How did you get started in that endeavor?
It all started when I was a child. As a lot of people's artistic abilities start. My dad was an electrician. He had a lot of tools, so I had access to a lot of tools, and I was very unsupervised. And I tinkered around a lot, and I worked on the floor of my basement and made my own toys. With making and sewing, I learned how to sew at a very young age. Ironically, that's something that was like a lot of fun for me. My mother at one point got me these little figurines out of pewter, You know, those little dragons and wizards that have crystals and real cheesy themes. I wanted to make stuff like that. So the closest thing to pewter that I found, and I figured it out myself, was solder. And so I was making, out of my dad's lead-free solder, I was hammering it and shaping it and making metal objects, even little knives out of solder. I still have some. This was all in middle school, or maybe late elementary school.
Okay. Yeah, it's funny, you know, we talk about the maker movement, and it seems like it's an organized sort of thing now. As kids, we were doing those sort of things. There was no organized maker movement back when we were kids, and it's funny, I look back on some of the things, the tinkering that I did as a child, and it's totally something that you would expect to see in the maker movement today.
Of course, yeah. All the kids need is access and instructions on tools and what the tools do.
Of course, YouTube is a fascinating tool for a young kid who wants to get into trouble.
I'm so jealous of the kids today that have access to YouTube and the ability.
The learning curve is like this. I mean, they can pick up 5-10 videos and they're experts.
Yeah, yeah. They don't even know how good they have it. Yeah.
So you went to college at Georgia State University, and what was your degree in?
A Bachelor in Fine Arts. I had a studio art major and a concentration in jewelry.
Okay. So you started in the creative endeavor kind of on the jewelry side of it.
Yep.
Working with some of the bigger jewelers in Atlanta?
Yeah. After school, after college, that's when I got my job at the jewelers. And I actually went to a technical school in Texas called Texas Institute for Jewelry Technology in Paris, Texas.
Okay.
The reason why I went jewelry route is because the only high school related course was jewelry making at my high school, and I later went on to learn from the same teachers that my teachers went to.
You made a jump at some point from the jewelry to working with movie props.
At Georgia State, there was a trip hammer. Now that's where I actually learned how to first do my forging and first do anything related to blacksmithing, because I always loved to make knives. I was making knives by stock removal, where you take away from a block of steel or a bar of steel and heating it, and you're not needing a forge. But at Georgia State, it gave me access to a huge power hammer and a lot more equipment, a lot bigger equipment. And I was making my own Damascus steel because you can get it at forging temperatures, forge welding temperatures. The jump from that happened at the Atlanta Blade Show. I shared, by that time I was old enough to drink, so I was 21, 22. I shared a beer with this guy at the Jocks and Jills at Cobb Galleria.
Oh, yeah.
And the guy said he worked on Last Samurai. Yeah, I worked with this guy named Tony Swatton. He gave me his information, you know, at least his store name. I looked him up, and 3 months later I was sleeping on the floor of his shop, working on a few different projects he had going on. He was doing work like I'm doing now, where there are several projects going on at once and creating weapons and armor. And that just happens to be his niche, and he was in Burbank. He lives in Burbank. His shop's there.
What year was that?
2004, 2005.
So it's only 12 years ago. It wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't that long ago. So, and I wasn't 21. I was 24. So this is after school was done. And so I worked on the post-production of Pirates of the Caribbean, Legend of Zorro. Val Kilmer was doing something called Prince of Egypt, because he played Moses in the animated series, but he did a live action, almost like a Broadway thing. And I worked on his cuffs and Egyptian headdresses and things. That's when we did Zathura, the second time around, where there was this antler handle on this really wicked-looking sword that this lizard reptilian guy carried. Zathura was supposed to be the sequel to Jumanji, but actually now the sequel of Jumanji is filming now, and I'm renting props and wardrobe to them now.
Okay,
and they're filming here in Atlanta.
So what kind of productions have you worked on here in Atlanta?
First one I worked on was Vampire Diaries, a movie called Level Up, but at the time the working title was called Lords of Bad Axe. have no idea where they came up with that. But Level Up turned into a TV series, and it was a full feature film that was supposed to air before to kick off the series of a show on Cartoon Network. Then from Vampire Diaries, Originals, because Originals was a spin-off of that.
Yeah, I saw them filming that out in Madison probably about 5 or 6 months ago.
Yeah, they're still going strong. Recently developed my IMDb Pro account, and I started to add type in all the things that I've worked on, and I was surprising myself.
Did you work on Walking Dead?
I did. I worked on commercials and for it, preview stuff, and then I'm currently working on it now, renting them stuff. They got another 4 years of filming that they signed on for.
So transitioning from that, being behind the camera, to your most recent project is actually on camera, Forged in Fire, and it just aired last week, and we had a little party. It was pretty good. How did that process happen? How did you get involved with that?
I applied ever since the very, very beginning. Like, as soon as I saw the first episode, I was like, that's the show I want to be on.
Okay.
And it took me to the 3rd season to get on it. But I
imagine they have a lot of people who want to...
Especially now, and they're even more pickier, so I even felt more honored that they picked me. I was picked out a couple thousand applicants. And there's only like 40 or 50 people that get picked out per season. So it was
just getting on the show is...
Yeah.
I mean, so leaving in the first round's not a big deal, and you were fortunate enough to make it all the way to the final challenge.
Yeah.
And tell me a little bit about that final challenge.
The final challenge, before knowing what I was going to make, I was kind of nervous because we're not allowed to buy equipment. We had to get everything here before we even left. And at the time, I was in the middle of a liquidation with Lionsgate, liquidating all the stuff for Hunger Games, and I was very, very busy. I was making a good amount of money, more so than the earnings of the show. It actually, the winnings. It didn't really matter to me if I won or lost. I didn't know this until I got there. When I got there and I met these guys, my heart went out to them, like, because we clicked like a brotherhood.
Right.
And it would be different if they didn't have it to where we met. We didn't know each other. We were just opponents, and we just go into the room and we don't know each other. But the fact that they housed us, we all were staying at the same hotel. We had dinner together. We shared conversations. We joked around. We didn't come in like, and in the right corner, So it was not a competition.
Like competing against your friends.
Yeah, it was a team. It was almost when I often refer to them as my teammates, because it was a team effort, and I would rather look at it like a team effort than a competition, and that's why when Harlan got eliminated, you could just see it on my face. I was just beat up because I was like, man, it's like we knew that it was going to happen. I would have rather it have been me. When Harlan is a lot like I am, the first eliminated, he's a lot like I am because he's very creative. He likes to create new things, and some of the things that he makes is just very, very innovative and stylized. And then Ryan, a fire chief and a really good dad, and I related to him on that side. So, and then Jared's same way, who was just a craftsman and an artisan and a good worker and a good all-around guy and fun. There were qualities in all three of my competitors, my teammates, that I just clicked with, and I knew all of us would be friends for life.
Absolutely. So I'm noticing, segueing onto props again. What is that you have in your hand?
Oh, this is one of the things I wanted to show that I made in high school.
Okay.
This just goes to show you the kind of lessons we were learning in school. That's called repoussé, where you hammer the metal into a pitch pot, and you heat up. That's copper and brass and nickel silver, I believe.
This is copper. This is brass.
Yeah, and then the chainmail. The chainmail. No other kid was doing chainmail. I was the only one that did the chainmail. And that's a little replica of a Japanese it's called a menpo. It's the cover of a samurai helmet, the face
Okay.
cover of the
Face
semi.
down off
I made the entire helmet, but I dismantled the helmet a long time ago and used the copper and stuff. But this was kind of cool. It's a wall hanging piece.
That's very cool.
But yeah,
What other props you got laying around?
this one, I didn't make it, but I did make the Revolution swords actually, if you want to show those. I bought things that I would use as study pieces and to keep for memorabilia's sake. I got brought into the memorabilia prop collecting world.
And you've got quite a few more props that I think we're going to probably show shortly.
This one's from Gladiator. This one's a really cool one.
Very cool.
Made by Simon Atherton. Simon he's English. I haven't met him yet. I want to, but he's very busy. He's an English armorer. He also does guns. I mean, to do guns in England, you got to be like really prestigious, and he's the one that designed the Aliens pulse rifle.
Wow.
That's like his stuff.
That's his baby.
Yeah, and so I began to collect things, being fans of the makers for props.
Makers.
Yeah.
There we are again.
And so I go back
These guys were makers before being a maker was a thing.
Yeah, and you learn tricks of the trade. For example, like this is like a set screw that's been covered up with some putty. Just to cover the modern day bolt. But it wouldn't be put together like this historically, and this would probably be bronze or very, very low carbon steel, and this is a aircraft aluminum.
Okay.
So this is one of the
very light.
Yeah, extremely light and safe enough to where the actors can fight with it. This. I was brought on because they made a mistake with the grips. They had another guy do it, and they didn't get the memo right, and they were pushed for time, so they needed to find a local maker here in Atlanta to fabricate it. And there were no prop places as much as there are today. Even the prop people that I network with today, they always forward over the blade stuff to me.
It's funny because I was watching that show. And I actually have a high school friend that was in the television series. He got killed. His name's Robert Prolgo. So if you guys are fans of Vampire Diaries or one of those shows, Robert's been in it. But he was actually a soldier from Monrovia.
Oh yeah.
General Monroe killed him.
Oh, I have to admit I did not make the blades, and they're made out of an inferior aluminum. Like if you were to bend this, it would stay bent. It's 6061 aluminum. I like to use T6 7075, which is what I learned from Tony. And you can bend it, and it acts like tempered steel. It does. Wow. It has a memory. So as long as you don't heat it up, you have to, when you're grinding it, you have to cold grind it. So you have to have a big vat of water. You make a pass, stick it in water. Cool to the touch. You work bare hands. But if you heat it up, then it just like this. Okay. It just becomes like this. And
how could you tell the difference just because you've handled it so much?
Yeah, I just can't handling it. And then how it reacts whenever you bend it, and how soft it is. Also, he used scrap aluminum because like some of the stuff was harder, and then some of it was like and like just buzzed in because we added the edge to it. It didn't have an edge. It was just like cookie cutter flat, and then this weird looking like a biker grip from Pet Boys.
That kind of looks like brass knuckles.
Yeah, and that was the design, but they didn't. They wanted me to redo it, and what they did was they put down a World War I trench knife and said, turn that into a sword.
Okay.
It's like, all right, well, the trench knife, the handle it's cut off like this. It's very squared off. And a little spike on a spike pommel, but everything else is pretty much identical. So what I did was I added wax to it and made a mold of it. I added the stamp, and then I said, do you have a logo or a maker's mark? And they're like, yes, we'll email it to you. So they emailed me the Monroe Militia logo, and then I I printed it out, and I'd used needles, and I stuck it into the wax, and then after I stapled it onto the wax, I went in with my gravers and I carved it out very carefully. You only needed to do it once because I made a mold of that.
Okay.
And then from there, that's when you pour these resins. But they needed to have 23 of these things made in like less than a week at that point.
So that puts you under a serious time crunch.
Yeah, because you got to think about it. If you have one mold pouring every 6 hours or demolding every 6 hours, it takes a lot of time to cure. So I needed something that cured within 10-15 minutes. So Onyx is what I used on this. It's a smooth on product, and that way I can work with it. You have very little working time. I got a big gallon of it, and so mix, slush. You got about 30 seconds to pour it into the mold. And so I clamped the blade into the mold, tightened it up, and then poured it. I even had one side was plexiglass so that I can see it climbing up and when to stop. And then our pour spouts, you can see there are our vent holes. You can see, yep, and we just snipped it. We just snipped it off. But the problem with Onyx is that it's brittle. It's very hard, but it's brittle, and they broke on set. So they sent these back maybe during third season. So they lasted a good amount of time.
All right. So what's the next prop you got?
Over here, when I was doing some prop buying and doing a buyout for Morgan Creek Productions, and this is one of the swords that they had in their pile of stuff from Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. I knew exactly what it was when I saw it.
You have an eye for it.
Yeah, and I said I gotta have that. This is a Morgan Freeman sword, his hero sword on top of that, because it's made out of aluminum from the movie. And
what's the weight on that? I mean, it looks bulky.
It's only about a pound and a half. It's not
pretty. It still feels pretty substantial in your hand.
Yeah, so I can hold it with 2 fingers. The distribution of it, though, it's very uncomfortable. I would not like to use this type of sword because it's very uncomfortable with the 2 discs. But it's a Islamic inspired scimitar type sword. I think the blade design is entirely fantasy, but
still looks wicked.
And
cool.
This sword is seen in the movie from start to finish. Like,
wow.
This is the sword that Kevin Costner was about to get his hand cut off with at the very opening scene, where he says, "This is English courage," and then they loop his hand anyways, and he grabs it and he escapes with this sword. You see it all throughout, and then at the very end, Robin Hood gets his life saved by Azim hurling this at the witch.
Very
so,
cool. A lot of history, movie history with.
Oh yeah,
particular,
totally.
Sword.
And it's something from my childhood, and I get a lot of inspiration from the things from my childhood.
Absolutely. And we got one last prop here.
Yeah, this one, not really. I mean, it is a prop, but it's not.
Wasn't movie used.
Was not film used. My buddy Anders Eriksson, who he makes these things for fans of the film, or his rendition of the New Nightmare glove, but he does all the replica gloves. The way Anders does it, he does it very crudely. It wouldn't be like the way I would sharpen a knife. He does it with a file or angle grinder, which probably it matches up with how the movie prop was done.
Sure.
It's supposed to be made in a boiler room out of tools.
Right.
So, and pipes, copper pipes. So it's supposed to be all stuff from the boiler room. Going back to the show, I wanted to get on the show, not to win the thing, but I wanted to. What I got out of it was to prove to my prop people that I could do the real deal too. They saw it. They could see it on TV that I can make the stuff that's real versus just film props, and be challenged way beyond a lot of other prop makers here.
I'll tell you that Hungamunga, when I saw that they came out and they showed that, and I said, oh my gosh, how in the world do you make that? That was just...
Well, you saw how how happy I was when I saw it.
You were happy.
The reason why I was so happy and I was not going, oh my gosh, because I knew that I could do it. I knew that I knew from the beginning, I knew what I was going to do. And you saw the process how I did it.
It was interesting because the two of you had completely different approaches to the very same weapon.
Yeah.
So it shows that, you know, creativity and design is something that can be completely, I mean, like they say, you know, put your own spin on it.
Right. When you think about it, I was focused on decorative stuff. I was so excited to show what I can do with details, that I knew that I could. From that, I was so confident in that I can do it. And I was surprised to see Jared's reaction afterwards, because I thought Jared would be just as confident, because he's way more skilled, and he was, and he is. He's just worried about it. For me, I wasn't worried about it.
I think going into it, knowing that it doesn't matter if you win.
Right. That's true. That
gives you a different level of confidence. When you have that, like, I really have to win this kind of sensation, and you don't know what the other competitor is capable of, that's a stressful moment to be in. For you went into it thinking, hey, I'm in the final two.
I felt like I already won.
I've already won.
Point. Yeah.
You know, I've stood toe to toe with 4 other guys and was able to prove that I can actually make the cut.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I was just giddy the entire time. It was very surreal, and it was the perfect competition for me, because as a prop maker, you're given a very short time period, a lot of hard things to accomplish. A lot harder than it is for having all the equipment in front of me that I know how to use. For the most part, I actually don't. I'm not really comfortable with like cutting torches, although I can. I knew how to use their chop saw. I knew how to do the drill press. If they had a mill, it would have been